At E3, a lot of people were surprised by the reveal of the anime game of the year, Jump Force. I mean, I know I was. I literally heard nothing about this game before it got that appearance at E3. And as more characters start to get revealed, I want to take this opportunity to talk about some of the history of Shonen Jump crossover games. And even though there aren't too many of them, I don't think a lot of people know about them, so it has to be a good video, right? And since that might not be completely interesting, I thought I'd use some of that history and some other knowledge to make some predictions about who'll be on the roster. Now, watch as I get every prediction wrong, and if you don't really care about the history and just want the predictions, skip to this time right here. I'm pretty sure you don't need to know what Shonen Jump is if you clicked on this video, but just in case, I'll give a few quick cliff notes. Shonen Jump is one of, if not the biggest magazine around, owned by Shueisha, I don't know how to say that, who controls all of the really big magazines and such. You'll absolutely find the big manga somewhere in a Jump magazine, especially the Shonen Jump ones, with Weekly Shonen Jump being the most popular one. I mean, look at these. The pioneers are out here in full force, which makes sense because Jump has been around since 1968, which gave it time to carve out the legacy they have now. Not only do publishers, publish, they also tend to handle the marketing aspect of things. And sure, in terms of Shueisha, being published in a Jump magazine is already a big thing to have in terms of exposure. I mean, Weekly Shonen Jump sold around 1.9 million copies a week in 2017. But, of course, more is always better. Always. So you get things like merch, animes, and other such things. And with the rise of the gaming industry and the release of a sick console, it was time to start making games that also marketed those mangas. And with that, we get the first of the Shonen Jump crossover games, Famicom Jump. Let me say this now, about half, actually most of these games never got an official translation. Thinking out loud, J-Star vs. Ultimate and Jump Forces are the only ones that actually got released in America, so unless you know your moon runes, you'll probably have to skip most of these games, especially the earlier ones. Alright, so let's get started with Famicom Jump, the first foray into video games for Jump and also its 20th anniversary. So how did they actually get them all together in a crossover? Well, they were the original Kingdom Hearts in a sense. See, you have this super fan who gets sucked into his copy of Weekly Shonen Jump, and has to recruit the heroes of Jump to combat the evils that roam the land. You go through each of the characters' arcs and then you actually get them. The thing that surprised me the most is that this isn't some turn-based RPG. I was really expecting an older Project X Zone or something like that. Instead, it's more like playing The Legend of Zelda or something. Like, the encounters are Chrono Trigger-esque, but when you get into combat, it's more like Legend of Zelda. Though, instead of a sword, you get a fist. A big old fist. Literally, your fist grows to the size of your body, essentially. I'd like to see Frieza dodge my shit now. Have him looking like his post-Trunks fight. Past that, there really isn't anything to say about it. There really isn't much to do. It's a fan service game through and through. Plus, I can't find any sales figures on this, so I have no idea how well it did. But it must have did somewhat well because they ended up making a sequel to it. And that sequel was probably just a little better. They cut out the middleman of having a fan and went straight to just picking one of the heroes and starting off as them. From there, you go find the others and go on your merry way, killing villains along the way. Sure, the game looks a little better and the gameplay is a little bit more complex, but it has less than half the heroes than the first one did. I mean, look at that. Well, they did have Rokudenashi Blues here, so that's cool. Even though it has less characters, it does make sense, at least in the combat sense. See, this one meets my expectations and is actually a turn-based game. You move on a grid and can choose different commands. You get 3 in a party, and if you want to switch out, you have to talk to someone. Which makes me glad there are less heroes, less to have too many options to pick from. Now, I don't know the sales figure of this one either, but it must have not been that good because it took around 20 years to make another Shonen Jump crossover game. They also must have been done with all that RPG crap because all the games from now on are fighting games, so if you like that, cool. Oh wait, there was a Game Boy game that came out in the 90s called Colt Jump, which is basically an extended version of the end of the original Famicom Jump, which was a trivia game. And how much staying power does a trivia game have anyway? They also just used the characters from the second game and called it a day. So what's next, you ask? Well, we're jumping from the Famicom and Game Boy all the way to the DS. Quite the jump, I must say. I actually remember seeing the next set of games in the English Shonen Jump and being jealous that I couldn't play it. So this is the start of the Smash Bros era, where you got a bunch of Smash knockoffs of varying degrees. Shrek Super Slam being the best. And in 2005, Jump Superstars came out, and it plays exactly what you think a Smash clone of DS would play like. What this game may lack in gameplay though, it makes up for in spades with the sheer amount of characters in it. 160 characters appear, with 36 being playable. It's like a Where's Waldo of different anime characters, just try and spot them all. The most interesting part of this game in my opinion are the decks you can make. They help you out in a variety of ways, and it's up to you to mix and match them to best suit you. And since you can't have one without two apparently, the sequel to this came out a year later, Jump Ultimate Stars. Gameplay wise, a lot didn't change because they said fuck it, just add more characters. Now we're rocking 305 characters with 56 playable characters. So yeah, moving on. Coming out around the same time as Jump Ultimate was Battle Stadium D.O.N, which is probably relatively the most known in America. I mean, it's obvious why. It's literally Melee, but anime. See what I mean about the Melee era? The big three are here, but not Bleach because, fuck Bleach, I guess. The biggest difference between this and Melee are the win conditions, which is usually the first thing changed to differentiate a game from Melee. In Battle Stadium, getting hit and getting knocked out of bounds drops orbs. Get enough orbs from everyone and fill the bar at the top of the screen and it's GG. Game's alright, just another in the list of games that are played for the fan service. Like, I cannot see anyone playing this that isn't already a fan of one of these series. There isn't even that many characters. It can get repetitive real quick since it doesn't have the competitive feel like Shrek Super Slam. We've been dealing with some middling games, and now it's time for the quote ultimate Jump game made for the 45th anniversary of Jump. That game is J-Star Victory Versus. You know, this game kinda plays like that one Dragon Ball arcade game. The main draw was the use of the environment to strategize as well as making a team, where you had your main attacker and some support characters. The characters kind of fell into archetypes. For example, Yosuke focused on projectiles and zoning, where someone like Goku was faster and focused more on aerial combat. Meanwhile, people like Gintoki are just silly in nature, a wild card if you will. The best part of this game is trying out the different characters and seeing all the different moves they have and if there are any special interactions with the supports and such. With 39 characters and 19 support characters, there was a lot to experiment with. Of course, there are the tournament modes which get progressively harder, like annoyingly hard. Then you have adventure mode, which I didn't really get to play a lot of. Of course, with these types of games, mileage will vary and things can get repetitive semi-quickly if you're not playing online or anything. A couple years later, the game got a plus version that actually got put out in America, which was a first. It has some balances and a new mode, but that's about it. Here we are, back in 2018 with the announcement of Jump Force. You know, this game kinda plays like that one Dragon Ball arcade game, which means that it will play like J-Star Versus. So nothing other than looking at older games and looking at Shonen Jump's current landscape, it's time to make some predictions on who will be in the game. I'll be limiting it to just playable characters and I won't be mentioning anyone like Light, people who are there just for the story. And also, there won't be any sports mangas in my predictions because it's been said that none of those characters will fit into the game. So while I love the idea of Hinata hitting people with volleyballs, it's probably not going to happen. Okay, so I'll just put these in the tiers. Basically guaranteed 50-50 shots and long shots. Also, I'll be picking 3 characters at max from each one, with it being a 3v3 fighter and all. Alright, I don't want to waste your time, so let's get started. In the guaranteed section, we have Boruto, if that's just not part of Naruto, Boku no Hero, Black Clover, Gintama, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, JoJo, Fist of the North Star. No, it has legacy. It was in almost all of the previous ones, and it has a game coming out soon. Aurelie, just Aurelie. Aurelie is love. Aurelie is life. So these are all the granddaddies, the big hitters. If these aren't in the game, I would be very surprised. Plus, Togashi has jumped by the balls, so 2 of these are probably confirmed. In the 50-50 section, we have Sakigake Otoko Juku, They keep putting this series in the game. It was in the first one, in Jope Ultimate, and in Versus, so it's definitely a toss-up. Promised Neverland, a newish manga that's getting an anime. It's pretty popular right now, so I'm leaning toward it being in the not, at least some form of an appearance. Katsukayo Hitman Reborn. Bobobo. Bobobo, 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 Bobobo. I think I got that wrong. Hinamaru Zumo. So I know what I said about sports mangas, but this is sumo, not volleyball, some crap. So I figured that they would make an exception for this, especially considering the anime will come out before the game. So now in the long shots, we got Dr. Stone. I mean, it's kind of popular, but the main question here is how Senku would even fit in the game. I mean, he is surrounded by fighters in the manga, but I don't know. I guess he can use science and be a gimmick character, but it's definitely a hard sell. Rurouni Kenshin. So while it's a classic and it was in Versus, the whole controversy with the mangaka might keep it out of Jump Force. Kimetsu no Yaiba. Now that I think about this, it should be in the 50-50 section. It's getting an anime, and it's kind of popular. And what better way to promote an anime than, put it in the game? You know what? Bump Kimetsu no Yaiba to 50-50. So tell me what you think. Is this list trash? Pointless? Are there any games you felt were left out? Anything that you think should be on this list? Let me know in the comments, and leave a like if you feel inclined to. I guess also subscribe too. That'd be cool. Alright, see you on the next one.